Hi everyone, welcome back to my lab and today's video in which I will be sharing my first impression of the brand new Stilazzi Darkroom eyeshadow palette. This eyeshadow palette was created in collaboration with Jordan Liberty. I literally got this palette in the mail and I had to put it on my face right away. If you want to share my first look at the palette, look at some swatches, a demo of how I created an eye look, I will be sharing all of that in this video. But before we begin, if you're new to my channel, I'm Yori. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad you clicked on my video. Hopefully you'll subscribe to my channel and join me for a future video if you enjoyed today's video. Now let's go ahead and get into it. I believe the original launch date of this palette was June 24th, but there was a pre-order and I did place my order on the pre-order from the Stilazzi website. The price of the palette is $39. However, you can use different discount codes to get 10% off, and I used Trend Mood as my discount code. That gave me a price reduction of 10%. The eyeshadow palette comes in a white sleeve. You can see the title of the palette in collaboration with Jordan Liberty. On the back side, you have a really nice message, which I will read you while we look at some swatches. You have the ingredients. The total net weight of the eyeshadow palette is 28.8 grams. You do have 18 eyeshadows. The eyeshadow palette has a 24-month shelf life and it was made in the PRC. When you slide it out, you do have your eyeshadow palette here, and it has a very similar front cover, although this is in a black packaging and it does have that NARS soft velvet kind of feel to it, although the packaging is 100% cardboard. On the back side, you again have some information about the palette and another saying by another quote by Anonymous, and it says, "Let the light shine out of darkness." When you open up the palette, there is a plastic sheet that protects your shades. You have a very nice mirror, which has another beautiful quote from, I believe it says Sophia Nam. It's hard to read the font actually, but it says, "The mirror is the worst judge of true beauty." And isn't that the truth? I really agree with that. I thought that was really beautiful. But here's the inside of your palette. You do have a mirror and here are your shades. This eyeshadow palette has a mixture of textures. You're going to have matte, soft metallic, intense metallic, and sheer shift. When I first saw this on Instagram, I knew I had to have it. I'm a huge fan of Jordan Liberty. He is a makeup artist. If you're not familiar with him, I was actually surprised at how few people actually were familiar with him. His work is so amazing. It's beautiful. His Instagram is amazing and beautiful. It's really inspiring. I'm a huge fan of his work, and I especially like the fact that he's not only a makeup artist, but he's also a photographer, so he will often shoot his own work, and it's such a complete artistic vision. I just really admire that, and I knew I wanted to both support him and his collaboration, but also the palette itself. It's just beautiful. Now, this aside, I have been following him for a while on Instagram, and he is a cancer survivor, so he has shared a lot of his journey on Instagram as well, which is both sad but also inspiring. And I just wanted to mention that as well, since I have been a fan for a long time. I did know that that was something with which he struggled, so I'm definitely wishing him continued health. Now back to the eyeshadow palette. There is a little blurb here on the Stilazzi website that he wrote himself in describing the eyeshadow palette. It says that there are 9 lean cool and 9 lean warm shades with a mix of matte, soft metallic, intense metallic, and sheer shift shades, which I hope you'll love as much as I do. At first glance, the palette looks incredibly colorful, and while there are some fantastic brights inside, Darkroom is firmly grounded in neutrals, and I probably spent most of my time in development on some of my favorite transition shades ever. There are 4 shades that can be used as transitions on various skin tones or as highlights or shadows on others. Let's go ahead and get into the swatches. I swatched them in rows, so you'll see the first 6, then the second 6, and then lastly, the last set of 6 eyeshadows. And while you look at those swatches, I'm going to read you the message on the back side of the sleeve. "The darkroom is where I realized my love of photography. In the dim obscurity of that workspace, each breathtaking work of art is defined by light. A reminder that darkness is where some of the most extraordinary beauty is forged. With 18 shades inspired by my world tour, I'm sharing the brilliant neutrals, vibrant colors, and spectacular finishes that have captured my imagination across the globe and have contributed to my most beautiful work as a makeup artist and photographer. This is my holy grail palette. A little of me inspired by you. Isn't that lovely? I really like it. So from the swatches, I can tell you, this is my first time trying Stilazzi eyeshadows. I had never purchased anything from the brand, and actually they make makeup brushes as well. And if you're not new to my channel, you know my obsession with makeup brushes. So when I ordered this, I had to order a few of these, and I'll give you a little brief information about those as well. And I'm going to be using some of them in the demo. So what I can tell you about my experience with this palette is that the mattes are more of a dry texture, but it isn't a bad thing. They swatch beautifully, they apply gorgeously as well. So even though they swatch, they just feel a little bit more dry to the touch. They are a little bit more firmly pressed as well, but not so much so that you can't pick it up on the brush, just so that you're not wasting a lot of product. When you dip your brush in there, you're not getting a lot of powder kick up that you're never going to be able to use. You really just kind of pick up what you need, and I kind of like that about the eyeshadow palette. So that was my comment about the mattes. There are some of those metallic shades like this one here, Bondi. Is it Bondi? I think it's Bondi. This one here, it feels almost wet to the touch. It is beautifully foiled, a gorgeous, gorgeous shade. But then you have others like Santa Cruz and Moonwalk. They're softer metallic shades, and they're beautiful for all over the lid for a more subtle kind of look. But you do have a shade such as Barocco. This one has like a duochrome shift. It has a very strong green shift when you swatch it. Looks beautiful. Another shade that was interesting, Moonwalk, I wanted to comment, when you swatch it is much lighter than it appears in the palette, which is really interesting. The two topper shades that he was mentioning are the shades Genesis and Supernova, and when you swatch them, you do not have an appreciation for what they can do. But I hope that in my demo you'll see that I used this shade Supernova applied over some other shadows, and it was truly transformative. I really enjoyed that. Now obviously I haven't used every single shade, but I tried to play with a little bit of each of the different textures. I played with the shade Riviera, and that shade is a softer metallic. It's almost a satin finish, but it does have a slight shimmer to it. You can apply it dry and it gives you a beautiful finish. You can intensify it if you wet the shade as well, which I tried on the side, but when I applied it dry because I wanted you to get a realistic impression of how the eyeshadows perform. So that was my commentary on the palette. The color story is so beautiful. If I had to kind of compare it to something that I already own or something that I know of, it really reminds me a lot of the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. It's really a versatile kind of palette that has your neutrals, as he mentioned. It is firmly based in neutrals, but you do have some interesting pops of color that you can really get a more bright and special kind of look if you so desire. But you can also use the palette for every single day because your neutrals are definitely there. So it kind of gives me those Born to Run vibes. And interestingly enough, he does a lot of work for Urban Decay in terms of the photography marketing for their products. I believe that he was one of the key artists for Born to Run, if not pretty much every palette that they've ever made. I've always seen his work on my emails. I'm a fan. I think you get it. For $39, I thought the price was really reasonable for 29 almost grams of product and 18 shades. That's a very good amount of product that you're getting. The palette is very thin, very portable, very easy to travel with. It's magnetized closure, and you can even retain the sleeve if you're worried about traveling with it and it may be opening up by any chance. The sleeve, which is very light, it could definitely help protect against that. So you can tell it was created with makeup artistry in mind, in that it's lightweight, portable, easy to store, etc. Stilazzi has other eyeshadow palettes in their inventory. I was kind of looking through to see what else they have, and they have a couple of other eyeshadow palettes, and they're all sort of in the same format. So I believe that they kept the same structure of their format, and I think that Stilazzi is geared more as a makeup artist brand. Another nice thing is that even though this was a collaboration, they didn't mark up the price. So this is the same price as the other palettes in their site, and discount codes do apply. Like I said, I used the code TRENDMOOD. So like I said, I couldn't resist picking up a few brushes, and I picked up 4 eye brushes. I picked up this teeny tiny little crease fluff brush, L217. I picked up a flat shader, L210. I picked up a color blend, L211, and a large pointed crease, L218. I wanted to pick some of the more smaller brushes in their collection since I have smaller and hooded eyes. And also I was looking something along the line of the MAC 239. So this is very similar in shape to the MAC 239. I'm sorry they're dirty, but I use them to create this look. And then this one here, the L211, it reminds me of a more flat version of the MAC 217 because it has a little bit more fluff, but it is tapered, and you can use it both flat, you can use it vertically, and then you get different effects. So I enjoyed using that. This L218 has a pencil brush kind of feel to it, and I really liked it for the lower lash line and also for intense crease work. And then this one, it's flaying out a little bit, this one is, but I think that with a shaper I can sort of get it to retain its shape a little more. I do think it's intended to blend eyeshadows directly into the crease, and me having no crease, it helps me create one. So I like the brushes so far. I will follow up in a haul video or something else and let you know a little more information about the brushes once I've used them a little bit more. I did pick up 2 face brushes just to try more brushes. I picked up a strobing brush. It's a highlight brush, and this is the 307. And then the cheek and chisel brush, it's like a small contour brush, and this is the L309. I forgot to use these while I was applying my makeup. I was so into the eyeshadow palette that I sort of put these aside and I just forgot, but I'll use them in a future video and follow up. In general, the brushes look pretty good. I like the length of the handles, and they are reasonably lightweight. I would say that if you are a makeup artist working for a great deal of time, extended time period, you're not going to get tired from handling very, very heavy brushes, but they have a nice weight to them. They feel really good in my hands. Let's go ahead and get into the demo and how I created this eye look. I was very inspired by his style of makeup artistry. He really focuses on a beautiful complexion and then just really intense eyeshadow, like smoked out. It's just beautiful. You have to check it out. Check out his Instagram if you haven't seen it. Now, I'm sure I'm not doing him any kind of justice whatsoever, but I do like the way that my eye look came out. I feel like it looks really pretty. It's intense. I've been doing a lot more neutral looks lately, and so this one was definitely something fun. I also intentionally went into some of those darker shades that are traditionally a little bit more difficult to work with. They sometimes give you a little bit more fallout, or they're a little bit patchy, and I didn't have any trouble. So let's go ahead and get into the demo so that you can see for yourself, and I will be back with my final thoughts at the end. So as you can see, my bad and leaky eye is all done. So we're gonna go ahead and work on my better eye. If this one works out, I know I'm all set. So let's go ahead and create this look. So I'm gonna take this lighter shade all on the upper part of my lid, just above the crease, just so that I can blend upwards with it. I did prime my eyes with the MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot, and I set that down with Glossier's water. Now this shade is very similar to my skin tone, maybe a tad peachier. So it may be difficult for you to see, but I can see it as it's being applied, and it has kind of a smoothing, kind of blurring effect. My eyelids do have a lot of texture, and so I do notice when eyeshadows give me that effect. I'm going to give this slightly more shape with the shade Double Tap. And you can see that I already have much more intense pigmentation with just one dip of my brush. I like this dusty mauve kind of shade. I think it works really well to blend out blues. So I'm taking a pointed crease brush, and I'm going to apply the shade Fathom into the crease. I'm just depositing the color where I want it to be most intense, and I'll worry about blending it out afterwards. So now that I have the general shape of the crease, I'm going to take like a MAC 217-esque kind of brush, and I'm going to turn it on its side to begin to blend out that darker shade. You can see it diffuses out quite a bit. That looks really pretty. This is the shade I also applied on the lower lash line. So I'm gonna go in with that brush and turning it on its side, I'm gonna run it along the lower lash line all the way across. You can see that mistake where I let my brush slide a little bit too far. I'm gonna blend that out when I apply a little bit more of the Double Tap shade in a later step. That's my cat Lola you guys hear in the background all the time. I'm taking a flat shader brush with the shade Riviera, and I am applying that all over the lid. I am applying this completely dry, and if you notice, this is the first shade that generates fallout. I was able to wipe it away fairly easily when I was working on the other side, so I'm not too worried about it. I set my makeup a long time ago too. I find that that really helps. I didn't experience any fallout with the mattes or anything like that. Alright, so I'm satisfied with the shape. What I want to do now is I want to add a little bit of depth. With a little bit of the black shade, I'm going to intensify the outer V. I like this black because it's a good one to deepen out other colors without being too intense in and of itself, but you can definitely build it up as well. So I'm just intensifying the outer V. I'm also going to run this along my lower lash line. I'm going to stamp that black shadow underneath my lower lash line. And I'm using a flat definer brush. I want to bring that blue just a little bit higher. It's funny, it looks a little bit green right now until I put that topper shade. Wait till you see. I mean, you can see it right here, but it just makes such a dramatic difference. I'm just diffusing the color upward just a little bit more. Making sure I have that shape I wanted. I'm going back into my Sigma brush and the shade Double Tap. And this is where the transformation really begins. You can see how easily the edges kind of blend out. I really have to fix that spot I did right there. So I'm just using windshield washer motions as well as slight circular motions on the edge to really get that to blow out. Now I don't want to lose the intensity in the crease, so I'm going to take a teeny tiny little baby blending brush and I'm going to re-intensify the crease just a bit. Alright, so now I'm going to go in the topper shades and I'm using the shade Supernova. I'm going to apply that with my fingers and it just looks so beautiful. So you can see it has like an iridescence. I'm using that as is. I'm not using a glitter base or anything like that. So pretty. What a difference, right? Usually I get frustrated with topper shades. I feel like it's not that significant of a difference, but this one really is. Unless I just happen to choose like the magic combination of shades. But I love it so much. I'm so excited with the way the look turned out. Let me tell you how I finished it. I did use a blue liner. This is a bodyography. I got it in my BoxyCharm and it's in the shade Midnight Blue. It actually works, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to apply upper lower lash mascara as well as some falsies. So I will be back to show you the finished look and give you my final thoughts on the palette, but I think you can pretty much tell right now I'm really excited. Even though it's my first time using it, I think that I used a lot of the stereotypically more challenging shades just to see how they would perform, and I'm really pleased. I'm really excited. I'm gonna go finish up and I will be right back. I hope you enjoyed seeing the demo, and I hope especially that you were able to get some sort of appreciation for the effect of those topper shades. Like I mentioned during the demo, I typically sort of like, you know, side-eye topper shades about how impactful can they really be, but these, at least the one I use, Supernova, I like it so much. It's so pretty. I'm gonna love using this palette. It's definitely a palette I would travel with. There's a lot to work with here. I really enjoy it. Now obviously I haven't used every shade, so I can't give you information about the entire palette as a whole, but considering the price point, how much product you're getting, the artist you're supporting, I would have to give it a definite thumbs up. This is definitely a lovely palette, and I do recommend it if you're interested in checking it out. I do definitely recommend that you check out his Instagram for a little inspiration. Just beautiful, beautiful photos and just gorgeous, gorgeous eye looks. So definitely recommend you check those out. I'm thrilled with my palette. I really, really like it. As of right now, it's still available on the Stilazzi website. So if you're interested in checking it out, don't forget that you can use those discount codes. I have nothing to do with Trendmood. I'm just on her page all day long trying to see what new makeup releases are coming out. But yeah, you can definitely save a little money if you're interested in checking it out yourself. That's everything that I have for this video. If you enjoyed it or find it helpful, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And hopefully you'll join me on my next video by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell, because YouTube is YouTube. Thank you again for joining me. I hope you're having a lovely, lovely day, and I look forward to seeing you again really, really soon on my next one. Bye-bye.